The rancher saved an Apache beauty, and she wouldn't let him leave. Samuel had lived on his ranch for most of his life. The land stretched far and wide, rolling hills and open plains that seemed to touch the sky. Every morning, before the sun even peeked over the horizon, he was up feeding the animals, checking the fences and making sure the ranch was ready for the day. Life here was hard, but Samuel liked it. The work was honest and the land was his home. One afternoon, Samuel decided to ride out toward the canyon at the edge of his property. He had been meaning to check the water stream there, which often overflowed after heavy rains. The sun was high, making the rocks glimmer in bright white and the grass golden in the light. Samuel guided his horse carefully along the narrow paths, feeling the calm of the land surround him. But then, something unusual reached his ears. A soft, frightened cry coming from below, near the canyon's edge. Samuel paused and listened. The cry sounded like someone was in trouble, calling for help. He did not hesitate. He urged his horse forward, descending slowly toward the sound. As he reached the base of the canyon, he saw her. She was sitting on a small ledge, her clothes torn and dusty, her long black hair hanging over her face. She looked scared but stubborn, refusing to call for help again. Her eyes, dark and deep, reflected both fear and defiance. "Hey, are you okay?" Samuel called gently, keeping his voice calm so he would not frighten her more. The woman looked up, startled. She tried to pull herself to her feet, but a small pile of rocks had blocked her path. I can't move," she said softly. Her voice had a musical quality to it, and Samuel could tell she was frightened. Without wasting a moment, Samuel tied his horse to a nearby tree. He moved carefully toward her, speaking calmly the whole time. He knew from years of ranch work that sudden movements could cause someone to panic. "It's all right," he said. "I'll help you down. You're safe now." She hesitated, her eyes scanning the canyon walls. "I don't know you," she said. "I don't know if I can trust you." Samuel nodded slowly. He understood her caution. "You don't have to trust me yet. Just let me help, one step at a time." Carefully, he extended a hand. At first, she did not take it. She looked at him with suspicion. But Samuel's steady gaze and calm voice seemed to reach her. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. "Well," he helped her lift herself onto safer ground, step by step, talking to her the entire time, reassuring her that he would not let her fall. Once she was safe, Samuel took a moment to look her over. She was young, strong, and clearly used to living in the wild, but the small rock slide had left her injured and frightened. He noticed a few scratches on her arms and legs, and her clothes were torn from the rocks. Samuel had seen many things in his life, but there was something about her presence that made him careful, almost protective. "What happened?" he asked gently, as he led her toward his horse. She hesitated, then said, "I was walking near the canyon. The rocks, they fell. I didn't know how to climb back up." Her voice was quiet, but there was a pride in the way she spoke, as if she wanted him to know she was not helpless. Samuel nodded, understanding. "It's all right now. You're safe. We'll get you back to my place, and I'll tend to your injuries." She studied him for a long moment, her dark eyes observing his every move. I don't know what will happen if I go with you," she said softly. Samuel smiled, a gentle and reassuring smile. "Nothing bad will happen. I'll take care of you. That's all you need to know right now." After a long pause, she finally nodded. Samuel helped her onto his horse behind him, making sure she was secure. The ride back to the ranch was quiet, both of them focused on the path. Samuel's horse moved steadily, its hooves soft against the dry earth. The wind brushed against their faces, and the sun slowly began its descent. casting a golden glow over the land. When they reached the ranch, Samuel led the horse into the yard. He guided her down gently and helped her walk toward the small house where he lived. He had prepared a clean blanket and a few bandages, knowing that small injuries could become serious if ignored. "Sit here," Samuel said, spreading the blanket on a chair. "Let me look at your scratches. I'll clean them up." She sat, still wary, but did not resist. Samuel worked carefully, cleaning each scratch with warm water and wrapping them gently with clean cloths. She watched him silently, her expression softening as she realized he was not trying to hurt her, but only help. "You're very careful," she said quietly. "Most people wouldn't be like this." Samuel shrugged, smiling. "I've lived on this land a long time. I know how important it is to be careful. And I don't like seeing people hurt." Her lips curved in the slightest smile, a hint of gratitude that she could not hide. She remained silent for a while, just watching him as he worked. Samuel noticed how her eyes lingered on the details of the house, the animals in the yard, and the way he moved. He realized that she was curious, but cautious, trying to understand the world she had found herself in. Once her injuries were tended, Samuel brought her a cup of warm water. "Drink this," he said softly. "It will help you feel better." She took the cup with both hands, her fingers brushing his. He felt a small spark of connection, but kept his attention on her well-being. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer now, almost shy. "You're welcome," Samuel replied. "You can rest here tonight. Tomorrow we'll see how you feel." As night fell, the ranch was quiet, except for the occasional sound of animals settling down. Samuel sat near the fireplace, keeping watch, while she rested under the blanket he had laid out. He thought about the day's events, realizing how unusual it was to meet someone like her in such a dangerous moment. She was strong, independent, and cautious, a person who had survived much in her life, yet had allowed him to help her. She stirred slightly and looked at him. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel thought for a moment. "Because I couldn't do anything else. I saw someone in trouble, and I knew I could help. And I guess I wanted to make sure you were safe." She nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting a mix of emotions: gratitude, curiosity, and something deeper she could not name. She did not speak again, but Samuel could feel that a quiet trust was beginning to grow. The night passed slowly, filled with the soft sounds of the ranch. Samuel kept a careful watch, and she slept under the warmth of the blanket, safe for the first time since the accident. He realized that this was only the beginning of something neither of them could yet understand. A bond formed in the most unexpected way, born from courage, trust, and the harsh beauty of the land they both called home. By morning, the first rays of sunlight spilled across the ranch, illuminating the golden fields and the small house where Samuel and his unexpected guest began a new day. There were no words needed to describe the moment. The trust had started, and the story of Samuel and the Apache woman had quietly begun, ready to grow with each passing day. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the small ranch house. Ayana stirred under the blanket, blinking against the bright light. For a moment, she did not move, still unsure of where she was or what the day would bring. Slowly, she sat up, noticing Samuel already at the kitchen table, preparing breakfast. The smell of fresh bread and sizzling bacon filled the room. "Good morning," Samuel said gently, looking up from the pan. "Did you sleep well?" Ayana hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I think so," she said softly. Her voice carried a careful tone, as if she were testing the waters. Samuel smiled. "That's good. Eat something. You need your strength." He placed a plate in front of her, and she looked at the food with a mixture of curiosity and caution. She was used to simple meals, often made by her own hands, and this felt different. As she ate, Samuel watched her quietly, respecting her space. He knew trust could not be forced. It had to grow naturally. He remembered the fear in her eyes yesterday, the hesitation in her voice. She had survived alone in the wild, and she was cautious for good reason. But now, safe on his ranch, she had the chance to rest and recover. After breakfast, Samuel suggested they check the animals. "The horses and cows need feeding," he said. "You can watch, or you can help if you want. It's your choice." Ayanna studied him carefully. She had grown up learning to survive, to rely on her own skills. She knew how to ride horses, how to move quietly through the land, and how to avoid danger. But she had never lived on a ranch like this, where animals were cared for daily, and the work was steady but structured. I can help," she said cautiously. She followed Samuel outside, stepping carefully on the soft earth. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of hay, grass, and animals. She noticed how Samuel moved naturally around the ranch, how he knew each animal, and how his hands worked quickly but gently. "You seem good with animals," Ayanna said, a hint of admiration in her voice. Samuel nodded. "They trust me, and I trust them. You have to respect what they need, not just what you want. It's the same with people, really." Ayanna considered his words. There was something calm and honest in Samuel that she hadn't met before. Most people she had encountered either underestimated her or tried to control her. Samuel treated her with respect, not pity. It was unfamiliar, but she found it comforting. They moved through the ranch together, feeding the chickens, checking the cows, and inspecting the fences. Samuel explained each task simply, showing her how to lift hay, how to check water troughs, and how to notice when an animal was sick or tired. Ayanna listened carefully, absorbing everything, and occasionally offering advice from her own experience. She had grown up in the wilderness, learning to survive, and her instincts were sharp. Samuel noticed this and appreciated her skills, realizing that her knowledge could be valuable on the ranch. By mid-morning, the sun was high, and the work had brought a rhythm to the day. Samuel suggested they take a break under the shade of a large oak tree near the barn. He offered her water and some dried fruit, and they sat quietly, letting the warmth of the sun and the gentle breeze settle around them. "You don't talk much about yourself," Samuel said finally, breaking the silence. "I don't want to push, but I'm curious." "Who are you?" Ayanna looked down at her hands, hesitant. She had learned long ago to guard her life story, to reveal only what was necessary. But something in Samuel's calm, honest demeanor made her want to share a little. "I am Ayanna," she said slowly. "I live near the hills, not far from here. My people, we live close to the land, as you do." Samuel nodded. "It's a hard life sometimes, isn't it?" She looked at him, surprised that he understood. "Yes, but it is a life of freedom. We live by our own rules, by our own strength." Samuel smiled. "I can see that. You're strong. You survived yesterday because of it." Ayanna's eyes softened. She realized that he was not judging her or questioning her ways. He only saw her strength and respected it. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe enough to relax, to be herself without hiding behind caution. As the day went on, Samuel showed her more of the ranch. They walked through the fields, checking fences, watching the animals, and even fixing a broken gate together. Ayanna admired his work ethic and attention to detail, while Samuel admired her sharp instincts and quick learning. They talked little at first, letting actions speak louder than words, but gradually The conversation grew easier. "You know," Samuel said as they leaned on the fence, looking out over the land, "you're a fast learner. Most people wouldn't know how to handle a horse that way." Ayana smiled faintly. "I grew up on horses. They are like friends if you treat them well." Samuel nodded. "I can see that. You have a connection with them and with the land. You understand it." The afternoon passed slowly, filled with small, simple moments. Feeding the animals, collecting eggs, walking through the fields. Samuel found himself talking more than usual, sharing stories about his life on the ranch, his childhood, and the challenges he had faced. Ayana listened quietly, occasionally asking questions, her curiosity growing. She had seen people before, but few had been so patient and kind, willing to share without expecting anything in return. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Samuel suggested they start a small fire outside. He gathered wood while Ayana helped, stacking the logs carefully. When the fire was ready, they sat together, the flames casting warm light across their faces. Samuel offered her bread and cheese, and they ate in companionable silence. "You don't have to stay here forever," Samuel said quietly. "You can return to your people whenever you want. I won't stop you." Ayana looked at him, studying his face. There was honesty in his words, no pressure, no hidden meaning. I know," she said softly, "but you have been kind. You saved me. I want to stay a little while, to learn, to see this life." Samuel nodded, understanding. "That's all I ask. Take your time, no one can rush trust." The evening air grew cooler, and the first stars appeared in the sky. They sat quietly, watching the fire and listening to the sounds of the ranch, the distant lowing of cows, the rustling of leaves, and the gentle wind. Ayana felt a strange sense of peace, something she had not experienced in a long time. For the first time, she realized that not all people were a threat. Some could be trusted, and some could become more than strangers. By the time night fell, Samuel led her to a small guest room he had prepared. It was simple but comfortable, with a soft bed and clean blankets. "Sleep well tonight," he said gently. "Tomorrow we can continue if you want." Ayana nodded, feeling a quiet warmth toward him. "Thank you, Samuel," she whispered. He smiled, leaving the room softly, closing the door behind him. Outside, he looked up at the stars, thinking about the day. He knew that something had begun, a connection that went beyond words, built on trust, respect, and the simple, honest rhythm of life on the land. For Ayana, sleep came slowly, but it was the first restful sleep she had known in a long time. She thought about the day, about the small moments that had made her feel safe, respected, and seen. She realized that this place and this man offered her something she had never expected, a chance to trust again. And so the bond between Samuel and Ayana began to grow, quietly and steadily, like the slow rise of the sun over the open plains. Neither knew where it would lead, but both felt the subtle pull of connection, the promise of friendship, and perhaps something deeper, waiting to be discovered. The next morning, the ranch was alive with movement. Samuel was already outside, checking on the animals as the sun rose over the hills. The light painted the fields in golden tones, and a gentle breeze carried the smell of grass and hay across the land. Ayana emerged from the small guest room, stretching as she stepped into the fresh morning air. She had slept well for the first time in weeks, feeling safer than she had since the accident at the canyon. "Morning," Samuel called, looking up from the horses he was feeding. "Ready for another day?" Ayana nodded. "Yes." she said softly. She felt a quiet determination. Yesterday had been about learning and adjusting, but today she wanted to do more, to prove herself, and perhaps to show Samuel that she could contribute in her own way. The morning passed quickly as they worked together. Ayanna fed the chickens, helped gather eggs, and assisted Samuel in checking the fences. Her movements were precise and careful, honed from years of experience living close to the land. Samuel noticed her skill and efficiency, admiring how quickly she adapted to ranch life. "You move like you've done this before," Samuel said, smiling. "I can tell you've spent a lot of time in the wild." Ayanna's lips curved into a small smile. "I have. We have to know the land, or it can be dangerous." Samuel nodded, understanding. He respected her knowledge and experience. She had survived on her own, relying on her instincts, and now she was learning to work alongside him. It was a slow process, but it was one of mutual respect and patience. By mid-morning, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. Samuel frowned, knowing the weather could change quickly in these parts. "We should get the animals back to shelter," he said. "A storm is coming." Ayanna's eyes widened slightly. She had seen storms before, but she was used to moving quickly through open land, not caring for a large number of animals in confined spaces. "I can help," she said, her voice steady. Together they moved quickly. Samuel guided the horses into the barn while Ayanna helped corral the cows, using her strength and knowledge to calm the frightened animals. The wind began to pick up, and the first drops of rain fell, splattering on the earth and grass. Samuel worked alongside her, impressed by her courage and quick thinking. As the storm intensified, Samuel and Ayanna realized they needed to protect the smaller animals. They worked together to gather chickens, rabbits, and goats into safer areas, using whatever blankets and crates were available. The rain fell harder, pounding against the roof and creating small streams of water along the paths. Lightning flashed in the distance, and the sound of thunder echoed through the valley. Despite the chaos, Samuel and Ayanna moved with a sense of calm urgency. They communicated with simple gestures and short words, each understanding the other's intentions without needing long explanations. The storm was fierce, but their teamwork made the task manageable. After what felt like hours, the animals were safe, and they stood together, drenched and exhausted, but satisfied. Samuel looked at Ayanna, noting the determination and strength in her eyes. "You handled that well," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you." Ayanna looked down, a faint blush on her cheeks. "We did it together," she said softly. Her voice held a mixture of pride and respect. She had proven not only to Samuel, but also to herself, that she could face challenges alongside another person without losing her independence. Once the storm passed, Samuel suggested they go inside to dry off and rest. He lit a small fire in the kitchen and prepared warm drinks. Ayanna sat quietly, feeling the warmth spread through her soaked clothes and chilled skin. Samuel handed her a mug of herbal tea, its scent calming and familiar. "You were amazing out there," Samuel said, breaking the silence. "I've seen storms before, but you faced it with courage and skill." Ayanna looked into his eyes, seeing genuine admiration. "I've had to be strong," she said simply. "Life in the wild teaches you that. You don't have a choice." Samuel nodded. "I can see that, and I respect it. You're not just strong, you're smart, careful, and capable. I've learned a lot from you already." Ayanna felt a warmth in her chest at his words. For the first time, she realized that someone could see her for who she truly was, not just as a survivor or a stranger, but as a person with knowledge, skill, and heart. The realization was comforting, and it made her want to share more of herself. As the afternoon passed, Samuel suggested they check the far fields where the horses grazed. Ayanna followed, walking beside him through the wet grass. The storm had left the earth fresh and cool, and the scent of rain mixed with the natural smells of the ranch. They moved in silence for a while, enjoying the simple presence of one another. "You know," Samuel said after a moment, "life on this ranch can be lonely. I don't mind the work, but sometimes it's good to have someone to share it with." Ayanna glanced at him, surprised by his honesty. "I understand," she said softly. "Being alone can make you feel exposed, even when you're strong." Samuel nodded.
Exactly. And having someone you trust makes all the difference.
"It doesn't have to be complicated, just knowing they're there." Ayanna thought about the canyon, the accident, and how Samuel had helped her without expecting anything in return. She realized that she was beginning to trust him, slowly, in a way she hadn't trusted anyone in a long time. I'm glad I met you," she said quietly. Samuel smiled. "Ah, me too." There was a pause, filled with a gentle understanding between them. Words weren't necessary to express the growing connection. Their shared experiences, trust, and respect were speaking louder than anything they could say. Later, as the sun began to set, they returned to the barn to check on the animals again. Ayanna noticed how Samuel treated each creature with care, patience, and understanding. She began to mirror his actions, learning the subtleties of ranch life and feeling a sense of pride in her growing competence. Samuel watched her, impressed by her ability to adapt and her willingness to learn. As they finished their work, Samuel suggested they take a short walk along the ridge overlooking the ranch. The view was breathtaking. Rolling hills bathed in the golden light of sunset, the river winding like a silver ribbon through the valley. They walked side by side, the quiet companionship comfortable and natural. "You've taught me a lot today," Samuel said, breaking the silence. "Not just about the land, but about courage and strength. You've reminded me that there's more to life than just surviving." Ayanna looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "And you've reminded me that sometimes it's okay to trust someone else, to let them help without losing yourself." They stood in silence for a moment, letting the beauty of the land and the bond they were forming fill the space between them. There was no need for grand gestures or declarations. Their connection was quiet, steady, and real. It was built on shared experience, respect, and the understanding that they could rely on each other. As night fell, Samuel led Ayanna back to the house. The sky was full of stars and the air was cool and clear. They prepared a simple dinner together, sharing the tasks and learning more about each other in the process. Ayanna laughed softly at Samuel's attempts to make a new recipe, and Samuel smiled at her sharp wit and keen observations. Before heading to bed, they sat by the fire once more, talking quietly about the day and the small victories they had achieved together. Ayanna felt a sense of belonging she had not known for a long time. She realized that Samuel had become more than just a helper or a stranger. He was someone she could rely on, someone who respected her, and someone who might become important in her life. As she lay down that night, Ayanna thought about the storm, the animals, and the quiet moments of trust they had shared. She understood that her journey with Samuel was only beginning, and that their bond would grow stronger with each passing day. For the first time, she felt a sense of hope. Hope that she had found someone who could walk beside her, not ahead or behind, but side by side. And Samuel, as he looked out at the stars from his porch, thought the same. He knew that helping Ayanna yesterday was only the beginning. Their lives were now intertwined, and together they would face whatever challenges came their way. Their bond had deepened, quietly and steadily, and neither of them could imagine going back to the way things had been before. The morning air was crisp as Samuel stepped outside. The ranch bathed in the soft light of dawn. Ayana was already awake, tending to the chickens with careful hands, her movements precise and steady. The bond between them had grown quietly over the days, a mixture of respect, trust, and shared experience. Yet today a tension lingered beneath the calm, one they both felt but had not yet spoken aloud. As Samuel approached, a messenger from the nearby Apache village arrived, a young man riding fast across the plains. He brought news that Ayana's people were preparing to move to a safer area, farther from the growing settlements. Samuel listened quietly as the messenger spoke, nodding slowly. When the young man left, Samuel turned to Ayana, who had stopped her work and was staring into the distance, her eyes distant and thoughtful. "They want you to come with them," Samuel said softly, careful not to pressure her. "It's your choice, Ayana. You can go if you want." Ayana's jaw tightened. She had expected this moment, but it was harder than she imagined. Her people were her family, her home, and her responsibility. Yet, in the days she had spent with Samuel, she had felt a connection she had never known before, a bond built on trust, kindness, and shared effort. She did not want to leave, but she also could not abandon her people. I cannot ignore them," she said quietly. "They will move soon, and I must go with them. It is my duty." Her voice wavered slightly, betraying the conflict inside her. Samuel nodded, though his chest felt tight. He understood her loyalty, but the thought of losing her filled him with unease. "I understand," he said carefully. "You should do what you feel is right. I would not ask you to stay against your will." They worked in silence through the morning, the usual rhythm of ranch life interrupted by the heaviness of unspoken emotions. Samuel noticed how Ayana moved more slowly, her attention divided, and he felt the same conflict within himself. He wanted her to stay, yet he respected her independence and her ties to her people. The quiet was thick with tension, the bond they had built suddenly at risk of being broken. As the sun climbed higher, Samuel suggested they ride out to the far fields. "It will help clear your mind," he said gently. "The air, the land, it can help you think." Ayana agreed, and they rode side by side through the open fields. The wind lifted her hair, and the horses moved steadily beneath them. The silence between them was not empty. It was heavy with thought and emotion, each of them aware of the choice that lay ahead. Finally, Ayana spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I have never met anyone like you, Samuel. You are honest, kind, and strong in ways I did not expect." She looked at him, her dark eyes searching his face. "I do not know what to do. Part of me wants to stay. Part of me must go." Samuel's heart ached at her words. He wanted to take her hand, to tell her she could stay, but he knew it would not be right. "Ayana," he said gently, "I cannot make this choice for you. I only know that I do not want to lose you. But I also know that your people, your home, that is a part of you. You must follow your heart." She looked away, tears threatening to spill. "I am torn," she whispered. "I have never felt this way before. You have shown me trust, patience, and something I cannot name. But leaving them, it feels impossible." Samuel reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I do not want you to feel trapped. You are free to choose, and I will respect your decision. But know this, you have changed something in my life. I cannot imagine going back to how it was before." The ride back to the ranch was quiet, filled with a mix of sorrow and hope. Ayana thought about her tribe, the safety of her people, and the bond she had formed with Samuel. She realized that the choice was not simply between leaving or staying. It was about what kind of life she wanted, what kind of connection she valued, and how she could honor both her people and the trust she had begun to build with Samuel. That evening, Samuel suggested they sit by the fire, the warmth a small comfort against the tension that filled the room. He placed a cup of tea in front of Ayanna and sat across from her, watching her carefully. "Talk to me," he said softly. "Tell me what you feel, without fear. I want to understand." Ayanna took a deep breath, her hands wrapped around the warm cup. "I feel torn between two worlds. One is my people, my duty. The other is this place and you. I have never trusted anyone like I trust you, but leaving my people, it feels wrong. Yet staying, it feels right." Her voice wavered, filled with honesty and vulnerability. Samuel listened, not interrupting, letting her speak her heart. He knew that words alone could not solve the dilemma, but he could offer patience, understanding, and support. "Ayanna," he said gently, "sometimes life asks us to make difficult choices. There is no easy answer, but whatever you decide, know that I will honor it, and I will respect you." She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future that included him. A life where trust, respect, and care were not fleeting, but real. And yet, the pull of her people remained strong, a tether she could not ignore. The next morning, Ayanna rose early, determined to find clarity. Samuel offered to ride with her to the village, but she shook her head. "I must go alone," she said. "I need to see them, speak to them, and understand what is best for all of us." Samuel nodded, hiding the ache in his chest. "I understand. Go with courage. I will be here when you return, and whatever you decide, I will respect it." Ayanna mounted her horse and rode off, the morning light reflecting on the plains. Samuel watched her go, his heart heavy yet filled with hope. He knew that this moment, though painful, was part of the journey they were on, a test of loyalty, trust, and the strength of the bond they had formed. The days that followed were quiet and tense. Samuel kept busy with the ranch, but his thoughts often wandered to Ayanna. He wondered what she felt, how she was faring with her people, and whether their bond would survive the distance and the difficult choices before them. When Ayanna returned, she looked different, determined, thoughtful, and yet lighter, as if the time with her people had given her perspective. She approached Samuel slowly, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of relief and resolve.
"I have made my choice," she said softly. "I cannot abandon my people completely, but I also cannot leave this, what we have built."
"I want to stay, Samuel. I want to be here, with you, while still honoring my duty to my people." Samuel felt a rush of relief and happiness. "Then we will find a way," he said quietly. "A way that respects both worlds. Together." Ayanna smiled faintly, a mix of pride and emotion in her eyes. They knew the path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and dangers. But for the first time, they felt a shared commitment, a promise that whatever came, they would face it side by side. That evening, as they sat by the fire, sharing a simple meal, the tension that had weighed on both of them began to ease. They talked quietly, laughing softly at small jokes, sharing stories, and planning for the days ahead. The storm of uncertainty had passed, leaving in its place a bond strengthened by honesty, respect, and the courage to face difficult choices together. And as night fell, Ayanna looked at Samuel and realized that trust, patience, and shared experience had created something deeper than either of them had expected. Their connection was no longer fragile or uncertain. It was real. resilient, and ready to endure whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning sun spread its golden light over the ranch, and Samuel moved through the fields with a sense of calm he hadn't felt in weeks. The tension and uncertainty of the past days had given way to something warmer, steadier, a quiet hope that he and Ayanna could build a life together. He heard the soft sounds of hooves approaching and turned to see Ayanna riding toward him, her expression bright yet thoughtful. "Good morning," Samuel called, smiling as she drew closer. "Good morning," Ayanna replied, her eyes sparkling. "Are the animals ready for the day?" Samuel nodded. "Always. But I thought today we could work on something new, expanding the garden and repairing the fences that were damaged in the last storm." Ayanna dismounted, tying her horse to the post near the barn. "I like that. Let's start with the garden. I know some ways to help the soil stay healthy." Together, they worked in the garden, clearing weeds, loosening the soil, and planting new seeds. Ayanna showed Samuel how to mix natural fertilizers and herbs to help the plants grow stronger. Samuel listened and followed her instructions, learning things he had never known, while she appreciated his hard work and patience. They moved with ease, their hands sometimes brushing, sharing small smiles, and enjoying the quiet rhythm of labor together. As the sun climbed higher, they paused to drink water and rest. Ayanna leaned against the fence, looking out over the fields. "Samuel," she said softly, "I never imagined I could feel so at home somewhere new. And I never imagined I could trust someone so quickly." Samuel set down his water and looked at her, his face reflecting both warmth and honesty. "I feel the same way. You've brought something to this ranch, to my life, that I didn't even know was missing. You make the work lighter, the days brighter." Ayanna smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in her chest. "It is strange," she said, "how life brings people together in ways we do not expect. One moment I was alone in the canyon, and the next I am here, learning, sharing, and feeling something I cannot describe." Samuel nodded, understanding her words. He knew that their connection was deeper than friendship. It was built on shared experience, trust, and the simple honesty of their daily lives. "Then let's make the most of it," he said. "We can face whatever comes together." Later in the morning, Samuel suggested they check the fences damaged in the storm. The work was hard, requiring both strength and careful planning. They carried wooden planks, hammered posts into the ground, and secured the wires that held the fields together. Ayanna's knowledge of the land helped them work efficiently, while Samuel's experience with tools and structures ensured everything was strong and safe. As they worked, small moments of laughter and conversation passed between them. Samuel told stories of his childhood on the ranch, of lessons learned and mistakes made. Ayanna shared memories of her people, of traditions, and of the ways her family survived and thrived close to the land. Each story, each shared moment, strengthened the bond they were building. By late afternoon, the fences were repaired, the garden thriving, and the animals safe and content. Samuel and Ayanna stood together surveying their work. "It looks good," Samuel said, pride evident in his voice. "We make a good team." Ayanna nodded, smiling. "Yes, we do. And we will continue to make it better, together." As the sun began to set, Samuel suggested they take a walk along the ridge that overlooked the ranch. The view was breathtaking. Rolling hills bathed in golden light, the river winding through the valley like a silver ribbon. They walked side by side, the silence comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. "You know," Samuel said quietly, "life is not always easy, but having someone to share it with makes everything better." "You've shown me that, Ayanna. You've taught me patience, courage, and the meaning of trust." Ayana looked at him, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. And you've shown me kindness, honesty, and strength. I have learned that life can be shared, that I can trust and still be myself. You have changed me, Samuel. They continued walking until the sky turned shades of pink and orange, then returned to the ranch for the evening. Samuel prepared a simple meal while Ayana helped, sharing the tasks and learning from each other. They laughed quietly over small mistakes and celebrated small successes, the easy companionship between them growing stronger with every passing moment. After dinner, Samuel suggested they sit by the fire outside. The night air was cool, the stars bright above them, and the fire cast warm light on their faces. They talked quietly about the days ahead, making plans for the ranch, for the animals, and for their lives together. There was a sense of partnership, of shared responsibility, and of a deepening bond that neither could ignore. You know, Ayana said, her voice soft, I never thought I would find someone who could understand me, who could respect my past, and still want to be part of my life. But I have found that with you. Samuel reached out, taking her hand gently. And I have found the same. You've brought something to this life I didn't know I needed. Hope, trust, and a connection that is stronger than anything I've felt before. Ayana smiled, squeezing his hand. Then let us continue, Samuel. Let us face whatever comes together, side by side. The days that followed were filled with the simple joys of ranch life. They worked together, cared for the animals, repaired fences, and tended the garden. They shared meals, told stories, and laughed quietly under the sun and stars. Every day, their bond grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. Even when challenges arose, a sudden storm, a sick animal, or a broken tool, they faced them together. Each obstacle strengthened their connection, proving that they could rely on each other, support each other, and find solutions as a team. The ranch became not just a home, but a symbol of their partnership, a place where two lives had intertwined and grown together. Ayana also found ways to stay connected to her people. She would visit the nearby village, sharing news and learning from them, ensuring that she honored her heritage while still maintaining her life with Samuel. The balance was not always easy, but it was possible because both of them respected each other's worlds. As months passed, the seasons changed. The ranch thrived, the garden flourished, and the animals grew healthy and strong. Samuel and Ayana continued to grow together, learning from each other and building a life filled with trust, laughter, and quiet joy. They faced difficulties, of course, harsh weather, unpredictable animals, and the occasional misunderstanding, but they faced everything together, side by side. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the hills, Samuel turned to Ayana and said softly, I never imagined life could be this good. And I never imagined that meeting you could change everything. But it has. You've changed everything, Ayana. Ayana smiled, her eyes reflecting the warm light of the setting sun. And you have changed everything for me. I have learned that life is not just about surviving, but about sharing, trusting, and finding someone to walk beside you. They sat quietly for a long time, letting the peace of the land and the warmth of their connection fill them. In the stillness, they knew that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them together. The ranch, the animals, the fields, and the sky were no longer just part of Samuel's life. They were part of their life, shared and nurtured by both of them. And in that quiet, golden moment, they understood something essential. That true connection was not built on grand gestures or fleeting emotions, but on the slow, steady growth of trust, respect, and shared experience. Their bond was strong, enduring. They had faced challenges, made difficult choices, and discovered the power of partnership and love. The story of Samuel and Ayanna had begun with an unexpected rescue, but it had grown into something far greater. It was a story of trust, courage, and the quiet strength that comes from standing together. And as the stars appeared in the sky above the ranch, they knew that they had found something lasting, a life built not just on survival, but on connection, respect, and a shared journey that would continue for years to come.